Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today we're going to be having a quick look at the nature key, unlocking your happiness and wellness. I have made a PowerPoint up there, but as you can see, it doesn't work screen-wise, so I'm going to shut that off. And while that winds down, we'll just start to get into it straight away. Now, I know most people are going to end up watching this on replay, so I don't want to waste anyone's time too much standing around saying, I'm just going to wait for 3 or 4 minutes for people to turn up. Also, if anyone who knows me, you know that a half an hour time frame to talk about something that I have passion and interest in is nowhere near enough time. So I'm just going to kick off and get straight into it. If you happen to turn up a little bit later and miss some of the start, please just jump in and watch the replay. So just before we get in and get started, I just wanted to give a big shout out first of all to Julian Pace and Robbie Figg and the whole team at the Happiness Co for creating Happiness Aid, to put on this, to create this platform where us as a community can come together and support each other. It's such a wonderful, wonderful initiative, and I'm really, really proud to be a part of it. One of the other things that I really quickly want to get into before we get too much depth into today's topic is there are, as you know, through the Happiness Co, they have their traffic lighting systems. And some of the information that I am going to present today is to help us go from amber to green, to go from mediocre to flourishing. These principles also work well if you're down more in the danger zone, okay? But if you're down in that red zone where life is sort of starting to bear down on you a little bit more, please reach out. Okay, this is a forum and an opportunity for you to reach out and get that right level of support. One other thing I just really quickly want to go over before we get into too much is why I'm a holistic health coach. I've been through, like everyone, a journey in life. Okay, and in that journey of life, I've suffered and seen loss of contact with self, loss of contact with friends, depression, anxiety. I've been bankrupt. I've had a 20-year drug addiction, and I carried a lot of stuff in the past, felt a lot of guilt and shame around a partner who passed away who I felt responsible for, and a number of things. And what I've really realized is in that, connection to self, connection to nature and environment is really important. Also through that period of time, for me to go from a young, immature person carrying shame, guilt, fear around who I am and about what I've done in the past, to actually be able to stand up and be in a situation where I've got a daughter and a partner that loves me, and I'm in a situation here now where I'm presenting to you. A lot of people have supported around me and given me a lot of help. So now it's my opportunity to try to give back to that. So, good morning. Quick blurb to everyone. I've never done a Facebook Live before. I can see comments coming up. I'll try to communicate with you as much as possible. It's really important that we are engaged in this. And we're going to start to kick off and sort of get into it. So today we are going to talk about the nature key, the real importance of connecting to nature and how there's a real science behind nature and our connection to it, and how that can really drive us forward and adding to some fuel in our fire of happiness. And that's something that I'm really passionate about. One thing that I really always want to discuss with most people, always at the start when I'm working with someone, is the understanding of a bicycle wheel approach. I can't show you my PowerPoint because it's too bright, you can't see it. But a bicycle wheel runs true with balance when all spokes have the right amount of balance. And this nature key is one of those spokes. Yep, I can't just tighten this one spoke and leave the others slack and expect the wheel to run true. Okay, I also have to make sure that not only does this wheel have balance and each spoke is having the right amount of tension in it, but if I want to create human flourishing, I have to make sure that I'm tightening the spoke that needs the tightening the most. And we get a lot of that by coming through awareness. So when we connect to our awareness and find out what our body is telling us, and a lot of people have a massive disconnect. So I'm talking about nature today, but a lot of us have massive disconnect in general, just to self, to feelings, to the reason why we're feeling in particular ways. I believe all our feelings are symptoms, and they are secondary to awareness and what's going on underneath. So always having awareness is really important. Now we're going to slowly start to build out an understanding of what is stress. So ultimately, a stress, or stress in general, is just anything our body needs to make a response to. And stress can be anything whatsoever. Okay, stress can be exercise, it can be eating the wrong type of food, it can be breathing in car emissions, it can be electromagnetic fields and electricity, it can be blue light from screens, it can be pesticides in our food, it can be emails, it can be a poor night's sleep, it can be an infection and a cut. Stress is a large number of components. Okay, it also doesn't have to be one massive event. A lot of us summate stress, and we get a lot of little stresses pouring into our bucket from lots of different areas, and these stresses eventually build up. Now, most of us, not most of us, all of us are conditioned that when we are perceiving stress in particular ways, okay, we go back to our primitive reflex of fight and flight. And this is why I want to just go over this, to understand that when my body has a certain amount of stress coming into it, be it a bad email, be it a number of small little factors adding up into that stress bucket, or, you know, some other things going on, COVID-19, arguments with your partners, etc., they are going to trigger a primitive reflex in us that pushes us across to a heavy sympathetic dominance response, which is fight and flight. Now, in our fight and flight response, a number of things happen. For example, my eyes open up. I allow more light in. Okay, and when I allow more light in, that just allows me to see a lot more. But my heart rate races faster. My blood pressure goes up. Blood flow to my extremities decreases. Digestion gets shut off. Yeah, hormones that drive sexual drive and desire and reproduction generally get shut off. There's also something called tend to befriend. So sometimes our sexual drive can get driven up because we get to drive and bond in the community, but we won't look at that too much. The other thing that happens is our endocrine system, our hormonal system, gets fired up, it gets wired up, and we release high levels of cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. And these are stimulating hormones that create us to break down energy, to metabolize more energy, to increase our stimulation. Why this is quite important is when we are stressed, digestion goes down, sleep can go down, all my excitatory hormones go up. Okay, and this can set off a cascade. Blood pressure goes up, and this can set off a cascading effect. And this is now why we can use nature as a key to drop all this back down. So we're going to be looking at the concept that nature is a key that we can use as a part of our bicycle wheel, as one of the spokes in our toolbox, one of our tools in our toolbox to drive human flourishing, for us to show up to be the best person of ourselves, to be able to have good health and to be responsive in situations with others and not reactive, and to help aid us having a great outlook in life moving forwards. Before we get into that, I was going to do one little activity with you about the power of perception. And we are going to talk about nature, and don't get me wrong, that is the nature of today's conversation, nature. But our perception is incredibly powerful. There was a study done a few years ago, I can't remember the lady who did the study, and what they looked at is putting cream on people's skin. And they were told that there was 3 different types of cream. Cream 1 had capsaicin in it, okay, which is the chemical that's hot in chilies. Yeah. The other cream was inert, so it had nothing in it, and the other cream had novocaine in it, so it was a numbing cream. Now what they did is they told people they were going to put certain creams on them, and then they measured the inflammation response. And what they found is when they told people they were putting the capsaicin cream onto their skin, that their body got an immune response and inflammation rose in that one area. Now what they found is even when they told someone that they were putting capsaicin cream on their skin, yeah, but they put an inert cream or even a novocaine, a numbing cream, the cytokine response or the localized inflammation still went up, exactly the same as if the cream went on. So what they found is the power of the thought and the mind really drove in these people what happened in their body. So the power of perception is really important. So I'm just going to really quickly take you outside and we're going to do a little activity. Now I've just finished reading a book. It's called 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. It's written by Amy Moran, and this is one of her steps. And it talks about, when we're talking about the power of perception, is that mentally strong people don't focus on what is not in their control. They only focus on what is in their control. So this is an activity. So come with me. Let's see how well this goes. I guess to see a little bit around the place. Let's see if I can set this up where you can still see me. Oh, that light looks a bit horrendous. Hopefully this will work. Okay, so on this, I've written this list, and you guys can do this to yourself as well. On the top, let's get it up the right way, write down what's outside of your control. So some of the things I put down is other people, what other people feel, what other people say, COVID-19, the weather, the global financial situation, 5G, cats. Yeah, this stuff is outside of my control. Okay, I am not going to focus on that. I'm going to remove this top part of the page. Make sure if you do it this way, you can rip it up, but then you have to pick it up. And what's outside of my control, I can do nothing about. Okay, so I'm just going to let this go. I'm releasing the energy of stuff that isn't in my control, and I'm going to let it go. And all I'm going to do is now is focus on what I can control. Doing quite well. Just want to make sure we get this done. It looks quite impressive on the video. Okay. So I've burnt off and let go what isn't in my control. And now I'm left with what is in my control. And some of the stuff that I've got on my control list is how I show up as a man, as a coach, as a father, as a partner. Yeah, the words I use with others, yeah, and with myself, my own internal narrative. There's a saying out there, abracadabra. Abracadabra is, the meaning of abracadabra is with my words I create, or as I say it, I create it. So our words are spells, use them wisely. My clothes, my friends, who I spend time with, do I choose to go to bed on time? What food do I fuel my body with? Yep. Where do I put my focus, my intention, my energy, and my time? These are some of my controllables. So it's a great activity. I recommend you do it. It's really cathartic and quite enjoyable to burn off and let go what you can't control. Let's go back in and let's look at our controllables when it comes to nature and the science behind why nature is so important to drive us forward. It's going to be quite hard to walk in and around. Ugh, that's quite a nice blue light there, looking good. Let's see if I can get this back into a semi place where you can sort of see me. Okay, hopefully this is all good for everyone. Okay, now I'm going to start to have a look at the power of nature. Now, quite a few years ago when I was going through my drug addiction, I really isolated myself. And I used to have a saying that isolation is no cure for loneliness. And during that period of time, being aware of being isolated, being confined to my house, I chose to do that. I didn't really get out and leave or go anywhere very much. I started to have a few friends and clients also who just came back from Europe and London and been in New Zealand and been in health coaching and strength and conditioning for a large number of years. I was aware of seasonal affective disorder, where people who come from countries, we're not as bad here, but we still notice it, where the winters are pretty bleak and dark, that has a correlation to mood being low. And I wondered, what is this about? As I started to read and study and read books like the Blue Zone Studies, why certain people live to 100, physical and nutritional degeneration, and a large number of books out there, I started to realize that interaction with nature, and perception is so powerful, with how people show up and be happy. So let's go over some of the stats. We're going to have a look at sun. I want to start with sun. Okay, now I'm sure you're all aware of it, that our sun goes through a natural cycle. At the moment outside it's dark, where the sun is just in the process of coming up. We go from dark, and then as we go through from dark, we come across, and then it gets a red light. Then we go a little bit further. In the middle of the day, we have a blue light. And then we come back and we go red. And then at the end of the red, we go dark again. That is a natural circadian rhythm of the sun. Our hormones follow that. And one of the main ones that help us feel happy is something called serotonin. And we have a serotonin-melatonin pathway. There are other chemicals. We can go from tryptophan, etc., all the way through. But our melatonin, our sleep hormone, our chemical for sleep, is driven off how much serotonin we make. And our serotonin is predominantly made majorly two ways. And that's one in the gut. Most of it's made in the gut. Healthy gut, healthy you. There is a lot of science to that. But the other is our sun interacting with our skin. And through our melanocytes, we can release serotonin. It can also have a decreasing effect in inflammation. So as we go through this natural cycle, we go from dark, red, blue, red, dark. We get a serotonin and melatonin response. Being in the sun, particularly letting the sun get into your eyes, okay? I won't go into mitochondrial health and a few other things, so it's going to go a bit deep for today, but allowing some sun into our eyes is really important to drive the serotonin-melatonin pathway. Why this is really, really important is when we go outside and we get sun on the skin, we're going to increase our likelihood to increase serotonin. When we increase serotonin, we're going to have a higher likelihood that we're going to increase mood. Okay? So low serotonin has been shown to have impact like low energy, low mood, depression, anxiety, low sexual desire, okay, sweet cravings, sugar cravings, okay, and we know the implication that throwing our blood sugar levels can have out on us in regards to mood, etc. Okay, one of the other things that I really want to talk about is what happens in the evening. Now, I have some hacks at the end, and I'll post these up and show you in regards to a little document that you can go through and have a look at these hacks. But where a lot of us go wrong, particularly here in Perth, okay, is it's our evenings, okay? It's our evenings that we don't quite get right. Now, red light and darkness drives melatonin release that drives our sleep. Electromagnetic fields, screens, and stimulation will stop that melatonin release and then will affect our sleep. Easiest way to know if you're getting enough sleep is, do you wake up when you need to, before your alarm? Yeah, really refreshed. If the answer is you're not bouncing out of bed, feeling refreshed and waking up before your alarm, there's a good possibility that maybe your sleep isn't adequate. All our hacks and everything I'm going to talk about today, all these hacks are 100% free, but there's always a cost, okay? Nothing is free, okay? It's just cost value free, dollar value free. Our cost is an opportunity cost. We can either not watch Netflix and get out of our blue light environments and go to sleep when it's dark, or we can have bad sleep, increase inflammation, possibly low mood later on. And the worst thing with not paying now, paying later, is interest. Everything always costs more a little bit later on. Another thing that can come up in regards to our sun cycles, there's just a little bit of study that will show you about the sun, is that we go through natural things. Just so you understand, if you live to about 80, you'll see about 29,000 sunsets and sunrises. How many have you seen recently? Okay, that was the sun. Okay, we know that serotonin and melatonin are driven by light cycles, and these are really powerful to drive sleep. We know the power of sleep. Yeah? In Matt Walker's talk on TED Talks, he talks about a stat that places that have daylight saving, when you go into the daylight saving cycle and you lose 1 hour sleep, you actually there's an increased likelihood of heart attacks by 50%. So the number of heart attacks on a normal day increases by 50% on the day where people have that 1 hour less sleep. The other thing that's really interesting is when they go back the other way and they go back to when daylight saving drops and you get an hour extra sleep, they actually have a decrease. So I got the figure wrong, 25%. It's a 25% increased likelihood of heart attack, and it's a 25% decrease the other way around. So that's the power of sleep. It is so, so critically important. And our sleep cycles and our happy hormone serotonin is interacting with the sun. Now let's have a look at the earth. I don't want to go too deep in this, but let's just say that we all have electrical charges. Has anyone ever been at a kid's playground recently and gone to touch the slide and got an electric shock? That is an electric charge and discharge. When our feet come in contact with the earth, we dissipate that grounding charge. And what they have found, so Stephen Sinatra and a few others have run a lot of studies on this, and what they have found is that with our connection, with our feet to the ground, we decrease cortisol, we decrease our inflammation, and we do that because we're offsetting these free electrons that give us that static charge. So when our feet contact to the ground, we can decrease cortisol, decrease inflammation. Just so you're aware, inflammation and stress, nervous energy are 100% related, because our nervous system and inflammation have to be joined together, so we're aware of what is happening moving forward, so we don't keep putting ourselves in situations that keep driving this inflammation response. Now, I don't know if you know this, but if you were to have a bath and then you were to look down at your feet, after you've been in the bath for a while, do your feet go wrinkly? Hi, Ken. Yes, they do. Okay, so our feet absorb. Okay, are there nutrients in soil? Is organic matter in the earth a nutrient? Yes, it is. Correct. Is our sweat salty? Yes, it is. Okay, so with our feet, when we sweat, okay, it is salty. Salt's a conductor, and that is a way that we conduct ourselves to the earth. So we are not just transmitting electrons and electromagnetic fields, but we're also transmitting through nutrients. Now, one of the things that we really come in contact is something called mycobacterium vaccine, which is a bacteria, mycobacterium. Okay, it's a bacteria that's been found in Earth that have a correlation to happiness and serotonin production. Our human connection to the earth and the bacteria in the earth drives happiness. Now, why I really want you to be aware of this is activities like gardening, walking bare feet, eating organic food, particularly if you don't wash it 100% well, brings us in contact with this bacteria. Now, what they've shown with this bacteria is some places are using planting, hands in earth, gardening as a form, as an antidepressant, as a spoke in the wheel of treatment for depression. Because a lot of humans, we are the only animal in the world that does something like this. Look at that. I have insulated myself from the earth. I've cut that off. Okay? We are the only animals that do that. We are removing our connection to the earth and the bacteria. Now, nature. Who out there really enjoys getting out into nature? Yeah, me too. Okay, I was going to go over a couple of studies. In Japan, a study was done where they had a look at people who walked either in an urban environment or they worked in a forest environment. What they found is the people who walked in the forest environment had a decreased HRV, had a decreased blood pressure, had a decreased resting heart rate, and showed reported signs of feeling more calm. Another study was done in Finland where they had a look at city walkers compared to a parkland but still in a city. And what they found too is they had much higher reporting of feelings of calms, relaxation. A 2015 study, which also compared urban environments compared to nature, found that happiness was increased in nature and rumination was decreased. Now, rumination is our continuous ongoing thoughts that we're thinking all the time about negative things over and over and over again. Now, we can decrease rumination, increase happiness, increase serotonin, drive our sleep better. Who out there would start to feel a little bit better? Yes, okay, nearly all of us. One of the studies that I really like is when they have a look at people who are in their gardens, gardening, collecting vegetables. And they call it harvest high. And we get a dopamine response from the gathering of vegetables from the earth. This is a programmed thing in us for life. For a lot of us, we have to put ourselves through a stress environment in the old days to go out and find food. So when we're collecting food, not only does our body know that we're going to be eating this, but we also need to be triggered with reward. So now we've got components where we're driving dopamine with a harvest high. Yeah, we're connecting with nutrients, micronutrients, and we're offloading charges through grounding and earthing. Yeah, we're increasing serotonin. We're decreasing the negative effects of stress by dropping HRV, which is a sign of sympathetic stress. We're actually increasing our HRV. We're increasing it. We're driving more parasympathetic. Another thing when it comes to nature that often gets mislooked, and I know I'm running short for time, but I'm doing well here, I'm quite happy with this, is temperature. And a lot of us don't put ourselves enough through temperature stresses. Yeah, cold showers in the morning can be a really powerful drive to start to set your circadian rhythms up, not just with the natural light, but also to start driving your body for temperature changes. Yeah, so looking at temperature shocks in and out can be really, really important. The other thing I didn't talk about is walking in nature, walking around trees. There's a concept called binary splitting. Binary splitting talks about when a branch comes up and then splits out, and then that next branch splits out. And when we start seeing these waving rhythmic patterns, that creates, okay, relaxation. The sensation of the sun on your skin and that tingling feeling that you get, the wind blowing through your hairs, yeah, the intention that we set, because most of us set the intention when we go out into the bushlands, yeah, is to be relaxed. So that's just a little bit of the science. So what we've found is through sun, following natural light exposures, earthing, through contact with stuff like the Mycobacteria vaxa, and also leading off electrical charges, and then actually getting out into the nature, yeah, be it bushland or be the sea. There's lots of bacteria and sea foam, etc. You know, getting your feet wet and dirty. That we're going through situations where we can decrease our stress and set ourselves up. Now, for me, when I started to really get over my drug addiction and move forward, the one thing that I noticed that I wasn't doing was getting in nature. So I drove myself and pushed myself to connect with nature through a park most days and once a week to get out into the bush and go for a walk. And it had a massive impact, and I'm sure it was a strong driver in that. So some of the hacks that I've got, these are pretty easy, simple, straightforward hacks, okay? When it comes to the sunlight, one thing that I love is 10-minute walks after a meal. Get up in the morning, go for a quick 10-minute walk. If you can go to a parkland, flick your shoes off and walk a loop of that oval when the sun's coming up, when your feet are on the earth and you're seeing the sun come up, has a massive impact. We can have walks also at lunchtime. Get out in that midday sun, glasses off, 10 minutes, and allow some sun on your skin. Really, really important. Getting some black light at night. Make sure your room is dark. Make sure 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed, okay, screens are off. Use salt lamps, candles, read. You can change your light bulbs. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure that people can understand is try to get this down. If you have Apple, you can install Flux. Or otherwise, if you're using your Android devices, put some blue light blocking screen things on. Okay, so an hour to 2 before, minimize this blue light. When it comes to earthing, garden, pot plants, get some garden indoor house plants. If I showed you around our house quickly, you'll see that we're pretty much wherever you go, we've got plants sort of in every part of the house. Nearly every room has plants in it. We've got plants outside, so get into the gardening, okay? Try to go to bed at roughly the same time and wake up at the same time. That has really a lot of powerful in it. Walk, decrease your screen times. Gardening, okay, shoes off, hands in the earth. Don't be so worried if you're outside and you're at home, you get dirt. Don't be so clean and wash your hands. Allow the interaction with the earth to come up. Turn your Wi-Fi off at night. Minimize screen time at night. 2 hours before bed, 1 to 2 hours before bed, no blue light, no screen time. Okay? Affecting our body by staying up to 10, 11 o'clock at night under this lit environment with all this blue light going on will stop melatonin production. That melatonin production means you won't sleep well, and the likelihood that you won't feel will then go up. As we mentioned, walk in the sea, walk in the grass, get in the earth, play. Yeah, play is, man, I can't explain all the benefits in this period of time about the power of play. Okay? Play barefoot, on the grass, in the beach. Yeah, go camping, get out there, play, eat organic food where possible, and cold contrast showers. The other thing you can do is, in a t-shirt, cold morning, go for a walk. That is a form of cold therapy. So, I know that was quite quick. I've only run 5 minutes over, which is really, really good for me. It's been a real pleasure sharing some time with you, connecting with nature, connecting to the natural light cycles, connecting with the earth is really important, particularly at this period of time. Super, super, super important, okay, that we get our feet in the ground, we get the sun on our skin, and we do all these things. And that's one of the spokes. One of the spokes. Hello. Hello. Who's this? Yeah. Okay. So it looks like it's time to start to wind up. But I'll post in the notes some of these hacks and a little bit about the science of why connecting to nature, connecting to the sunlight, connecting to the earth, connecting to the bacteria, and just getting out and looking in nature can drive happiness through dopamine, serotonin, melatonin, sleep, decreasing cortisol, decreasing inflammation. These are all powerful little things that add up and add up. I hope you all enjoyed that. It looks like it's time to go. Are we doing some work? Are we doing some work? Yeah, yeah. Say hello. Say hi, Charlotte. Say hello to everybody. Hey? Yeah. Okay, so I hope you all got some benefit out of that. One thing I just want to make sure that I reiterate is thank you to the whole team at the Happiness Co. for creating this platform, to giving us this opportunity to bond and come together. And everyone, I better take this away. Have a great day. It's been a real pleasure spending time. I hope you got a lot of value. Get out in nature, get your feet dirty, play, have a great time. See you later. Have a great day.